This is Dr. Steve Cangiano. I am the president and co-founder of RDT.Media and Events with its online companions, humanity-upgrade.com, relationshipdevelopment.com, MD Education, RDT Media and Events. And today, this is really exciting for me because we had somebody who took a chance on us when we first started. And since then, she has had almost 60,000 downloads of her content. And most of that is due to her, and a little bit of that is due to us. So I want to introduce to you Dr. Margaret Paul. She's written many books, translated into 11 languages. One of them is, Do I Have to Give Up Me to Be Loved by You? And then she wrote sequels for Kids and God, Inner Bonding, which is really an amazing course that she does, Healing Your Aloneness. And aloneness is really up for a lot of people in this day and age because of what's going on. She's also a chaplain. I'm really jealous. She's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And there's a lot to talk about. But Margaret, I want to apologize for one thing. There's a typo on our website. It says that you've been doing this since 1967. So, I have to change that and sincerely apologize.
No, that's right. I've been doing this for 52 years.
Oh my goodness. That's hard to believe. And as you go through her content, she has stayed current over these 52, 53 years, which is really amazing. All right. So let's talk and the newest thing is Diet for Divine Connection. I looked it up on Amazon. I haven't gotten a copy yet. It has 61 validated 5-star ratings. So I can't talk enough about that. I mean, that's really amazing. And we're going to talk about the Inner Bonding course coming up soon, probably towards the end. Okay. A lot of what you talk about, I'm sorry, did I miss anything, Mark?
No, that's fine. Well, just my most recent book is called The Inner Bonding Workbook, which is a great way to learn inner bonding.
Beautiful. And we want to talk about what inner bonding is. A lot of what you talk about is how to love yourself. And towards the end of this, I have a six question from an article you did that actually spoke to me the most. But you talk about spiritual source, blocks, and divine connection. I'm sorry for the scientific, can you break that algorithm down for us, if you want to call that, or what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, so I was trained as a traditional psychotherapist, and I had tons of my own psychotherapy, and I practiced for 17 years traditionally, and I was not happy with the results. And so I started to ask for a process that would work really fast and deep. And that's when Spirit brought in inner bonding. And one of the things that I realized in traditional psychotherapy is, number one, they don't teach you anything about taking responsibility for your own feelings. I didn't even know that I was responsible. And second, they don't teach you how to have a spiritual connection. And one of the things I learned as I started to bring inner bonding into my own life is that there's actually no healing without a higher connection of love and truth and comfort, something we can turn to understand what it means to truly love ourselves, because we don't have role models in our society for what it means to love ourselves and to share love with others. We just don't know what that is. And so we have to turn to a higher source. So I tried for many, many years to have what I call now at-will divine connection, which I talk about in my 2 recent books. But that really eluded me until Spirit brought inner bonding in. And then, because inner bonding is based on the concept of intention, that either there's an intention to learn about loving yourself and sharing your love, or the intention is to protect against pain with some form of controlling behavior. And when I understood what the intention to learn was, I got really excited. Wow, I nobody ever told me about this, about being that open to learning. And when I started to open to learning about loving myself, suddenly I got that connection. And I thought, wow, this is really amazing. I'm going to teach this to my clients and they'll be able to connect, except it didn't happen that way. So then it took me a while to connect the dots and to realize that divine connection is about your frequency. And when you move into an intention to learn about loving yourself, that raises your frequency, but not enough. And the other aspect is something I know you're really interested in, is what you put into your body. So when people are eating junk food, they're eating a lot of sugar, they're drinking alcohol, they're taking drugs, they're eating factory farm foods, all that stuff, the frequency of their body goes too low. And this is one of the problems today, is that people have been eating so much junk that they can't tune into what's true and what's loving. In the past, people could tune in without even realizing they were. Now they can't, because their frequency has gone so low with the bad food. Well, I was really fortunate in that I was a sickly kid. And in my early 20s, I started to research what creates health. And I learned what did, and I changed my diet completely when I was 22. And at that time I started to shop out of the only little bitty health food store that was in LA at the time. So that was 58 years ago. Yeah, I'm going to be 81 in a month. So I feel like I have supported fantastic health with myself. But what I realized is that it takes the combination of a high frequency in your body and a high frequency in your mind to create the energy to connect with your higher source. So when people really decide to take loving care of themselves by eating really well, by caring about their health and well-being, and they're willing to open to learning moment by moment, it's really a moment by moment thing about what's loving to themselves in any given moment, then their frequency goes high enough and they get to have that at-will access. And I've worked with thousands and thousands of people about this, and it's just that their whole lives change. It's miraculous for them when they're willing to take loving care of themselves.
We did not plan this. I just want to make sure that everybody listening to this knows. But we come from a little bit different perspective, but the same destination, because we had the Relationship magazine and then we had Humanity Upgrade. And I want to break down a lot of what you just said, but just to stay on this, my scientific mind and research, we live in this obesogenic society, high calorie, low nutrition, addictive food in abundance. This abundant food is cheaper, easy to access, much more convenient.
Right.
And now, and I just stay on the data because this is fascinating to me. 42.7% of the population is obese in the United States, and it's predicted to go up to 50% by 2030. And when you say it's about loving yourself, it's almost like sometimes politically incorrect, healthy at any size. That's happy at any size is okay, but healthy at any size. And the fact that you've been doing this for 58 years is exciting to me. It's just really beautiful to me. And so we have programs about how do you improve your metabolic efficiency, because that's what the body really, really needs. And metabolic efficiency, cognitive efficiency, and I would even say love efficiency. I mean, that's not a term. Can I break down a couple of things you said? Sure. Because for a lot of people, it's counterintuitive. So Dr. Paul, when you say take responsibility, a lot of times in the culture, at least some of the things I see, is that people are saying, you made me feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Can you comment on that, or how you would interact with somebody that maybe one of your clients who says that to you?
Yeah. So one of the things that we teach is that our feelings are an amazing source of inner guidance. So let's say that I'm talking with somebody and I feel uncomfortable. I don't think that they're making me uncomfortable. What I think is that my inner source, my feeling self, which is that part of the soul that's inside me that often communicates through feelings, is giving me information, and it's giving me very important information. So to take responsibility for my feelings is to be open to learning about the information that that discomfort is giving me. And so if I go inside and I open to learning, that discomfort might say, well, this person is not being authentic, or this person is lying, or this person is trying to make you responsible for them, or this person is pulling on you for approval, or something of that nature. This person is not somebody to be trusted. My discomfort is very, very important to me. And I would never say, well, you're making me uncomfortable, so you have to change. Because first of all, I don't have any control over what the other person is doing. And secondly, that's such important information. Like I teach my clients, if you feel anxious, that is very important information, that there's some way that you're abandoning yourself. You're coming from that ego wounded part of you, and you're telling yourself lies. You're telling yourself you're not good enough, or putting pressure on yourself that you got to be perfect and you got to do everything right and you've got to perform and you've got to get approval. Unless this person likes you or loves you or approves of you, you're not okay. You know, we're just programmed with tons of false beliefs. And
Right.
part of the inner bonding process is to discover these through our feelings. Step one of inner bonding is being present with your feelings and recognizing that they have vital information for us. So that's the beginning of taking responsibility for your feelings, recognizing that they're speaking to us. It's like we need this roadmap. You know, if you were to drive from LA to New York without a roadmap, you'd be lost. Our
Gotcha.
feelings, if we don't pay attention, we get lost. We don't know what we're doing. We don't recognize that we're treating ourselves badly, and that the feelings are letting us know that.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you might say that the negative feelings, there might be more to learn there, or a lot of things to learn there when we're experiencing that. Would that be accurate, or?
Well, all of our feelings, because if I'm feeling happy and peaceful and joyful, that's letting me know that I'm loving myself. I'm taking responsibility for myself. So I want to know that too. I mean, obviously we don't want to just, have negative feelings as information. So I have learned through the practice of inner bonding to stay present in my body. I call it having your inner baby monitor on, because people who have a baby and they want to be good parents, they don't just leave the baby in a crib and go out to lunch. They put the baby monitor on. And the minute the baby cries, they attend. And so what we teach people in step one of inner bonding is to move out of your head and get present in your body, so that
Beautiful.
the moment there's a feeling that needs attending to. So I'm present and I know I feel peaceful, I feel full, I feel happy. I know I'm taking care of myself. But the minute I feel, any numbness or depression or guilt or shame or anger or aloneness or emptiness or anxiety, I know I've just told myself something that's a lie from that ego wounded part of me, which is programmed with a ton of lies. And I'm going to attend to that right away, just like I did with my babies when I heard them cry.
Got it. Beautiful. And then another thing, well, if we could, one other thing I want to just unpack, and for I've been in this field, so I get it. And although I did come from a scientific field, a lot of my colleagues in science say divine, spiritual. What's that? How would you, when you say divine connection, break that down for me and for a lot of people who may not necessarily they're in the world and they're like, break that down for me.
So my experience is that we live in a universe of information, and that the energy of the universe is love. But actually, people don't have to believe in anything. For example, I had a client who's, I was working with his wife and she was doing really well. And he came to me and he said, look, I know that you believe in this spiritual stuff. I don't believe anything, but I know it's a part of your process. And so in the step, which is step 4 of inner bonding, where we're asking a higher source for love and truth, I said, just ask the air. Just ask the air, what's loving to me right now? You don't have to believe anything, just ask it. And he came back and said, well, I don't know who's answering, but I'm feeling so much better. I'm getting great answers. So, I mean, I don't pretend to know what's there. All I know is that it is. And that if people open, regardless of what their belief system is, they're going to start receiving information that's extremely powerful. At this point in my life, I don't do anything without asking that higher source, which I think of like my higher soul or higher power, whatever it is that people want to think of it as. It, you know, really doesn't matter what they think of it as. It's there. And when they practice it, they will start to get a direct experience. They don't have to believe it. I was brought up in an atheist family, so I didn't believe anything. And so it took me practice. It took me having to test it out. You know, I would listen and then things would work well, and then I wouldn't listen and things didn't work well. And over a period of time, I became, you know, I started to trust that higher voice or pictures, or, I mean, it comes through in so many ways. So now I don't do anything without that guidance. And that's what that's what's changed my life completely, is not listening to that programmed ego wounded voice that is always trying to control, but listening to the voice of love and truth.
Beautiful. Love. And you spoke to the woman, you spoke to the man, different people, but they got to the same destination, which is
Right.
which is great. It's beautiful. One thing I do want to emphasize that you said was energy, frequency, and information is not, you know, astral plane stuff. It is physics and science down to the very core of our matter. Everything is energy and information.
Right.
And that's critical. And when you think of like a seed in your garden, well, that energy and information attracts what it needs to become a tree or a plant or a tulip or whatever.
Right.
It's beautiful. All right. I want to go through the 6 steps of loving yourself, but there's a couple of, this is so interesting. There's a few other places I want to go before we do that. You really, and I love this because I totally agree. You say, stay focused on the process. And this is something I believe in. A lot of people are, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I'm married.
Right.
I'll be happy when I get the job. I'll be happy when I have the house. And you say that that's a block to their happiness.
Right.
Maybe explain that a little bit for people.
Well, for example, I love to write, and I'm almost always either writing articles or writing books. But when I'm writing, I'm not thinking about whether or not people are going to read it or how it's going to do. I'm just present for the process. And being present for the process is what allows me to access my creativity. And the same thing, I'm also an artist. I paint. I don't think about, oh, I've got to do a good painting, or I'll be happy if this painting is really good. I'm just enjoying painting. I'm happy now. And so when people attach their worth and their happiness to the outcome, they're missing what life is all about. They're missing this moment. This moment is what life's all about. And the other thing is that when you're attaching your worth and your happiness to the outcome of things, then you're trying to control it. That brings your frequency down. Anytime you're trying to control, your frequency goes low, and we don't manifest from a low frequency. We manifest what we want when we're in the present moment, when we're excited about what we're doing, when we're in joy, we're in connection with that higher source, whatever that is for you, and then we co-create with that. But when we're trying to control, because we're attaching our worth and our safety and our well-being to the outcome, we just limit ourselves. So it's so important not to be attached to the outcome.
Beautiful. You know, and as I'm sitting here, what's going through my head, character, competence, and congruity is what you exude that, which is really, you know, it's really fun to watch. So this is why I'm so lucky I get to do this, and you know, it's fun. So before we get into the 6 steps of loving yourself, because I think that that's up for a lot of people. I think there's a lot of misconceptions around loving yourself. You
Right.
just need to love yourself, and people say that. Okay.
Yeah, they don't know what it means.
Yeah, they don't know what it means. And you talk about being enslaved to the wounded self, and then people need to tap into their intuition. So my scientific mind's, well, all right, how do I do that? And I believe in intuition because I saw a lot of miracles through intuition in my wellness clinic back in the city, and you know, all these different things. How do you go from wounded self to tapping into and trusting your intuition?
Well, it's important to recognize that the wounded self is a programmed part of us. It's a part of our survival that we developed when we were growing up as a way to manage the pain of childhood. Because many of us, we had rejection, we had abuse, we had really painful, we had loss, we had painful situations. We're not capable of handling those big feelings of, you know, of loneliness and heartbreak and grief and feeling so helpless over others and situations. So we had to develop this wounded part of ourselves that tries to control getting love and avoiding pain and feeling safe. This part of us is in the lower part of the brain called the amygdala, and it's activated through fear into fight or flight or freeze. Now, that helped us as we were growing up, but it doesn't help us at all now. In fact, it's really getting in the way. And so part of the inner bonding process is uncovering the false beliefs, because that fear, most of it, unless it's fear of real and present danger that's happening in the moment, like you're attacked by a mountain lion, most of the fear is coming from our erroneous thinking, our false beliefs. And so we want to unpack that. We want to dismantle it, and we want to bring in truth so that we're not creating that fear, that anxiety that so many people live with. Our intuition is in the body. It's my experience is that a part of my soul exists inside. You can call that your feeling self, your inner child, whatever you want to call it. And the rest of my soul is all around, and I can call that my higher self. But the intuition is that gut feeling inside. That's your soul self. It's in a completely different place than those programmed false beliefs of the wounded self, which is here in the lower part, the reptilian brain. So they're two completely different places within us. And when we learn, see, we've learned to trust that wounded part because it was part of our survival, but really it knows nothing. It's just programmed. It has no access to truth. So it's so important to start to tune in to what our feelings, our intuitive inner knowing, what that's telling us.
Got it. And then, are there any guidelines, like, for instance, I'm just thinking out loud right now. So if my intuition leads me to a better place, more love, more light, whatever, is that what intuition is versus the fear? Is that how do you parse that?
Okay, well, see, for me, my experience is that we have two places where we can check in for truth. One is my inner soul, and that's what I think of as my intuition, and the other is my higher, that divine, whatever you want to call it. So when I ask what's loving to me, and I get information, then I go inside and say, well, does that feel right inside? And when these two sources line up, I know I'm on the right track. So I
Beautiful.
think we're very blessed that we have two sources of information.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, and there's not a lot of mountain lions in North Atlanta or in LA. You know, I was listening to some recently. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Is that when people are constantly in that fight or flight, there's a mountain lion on my chair, but not really, you know, that constant fear, that it shuts down their inner organs and blood flow and
Yes, that's right.
detox. And it also, if I pretty sure this is accurate. It shuts down their openness to learning as well.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we go into fight or flight, the blood leaves the brain, it leaves the organs, it leaves the immune system, and it goes into the arms and legs for fight or flight. Well, when you're in constant anxiety, then of course you're eroding your immune system, which is one of the big problems with health, is that people are so anxious and they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. Oh, health and also learning, because
That's
what
right. No,
you're
you
asking.
can't learn.
No.
You can't learn
Because-
when you're in that state. And then of course, then when you're anxious, you want to do something to numb it out. So then you go for the junk food or the
Right.
alcohol or the drug to numb it out, rather than listening to it and finding out what it's telling you, so that you can uncover the false beliefs that are creating it. That's what inner bonding does.
Beautiful. And that's where I want to now. That's a perfect segue into loving yourself, because what it really emphasizes is really being open, not fight or flight, but open to learning about yourself and through this process. So what I'd love to do, and then we can bring it in for a landing, is go through these 6 steps. You mentioned 1 and 4 so far. I may have missed, and let's just go through them. And this is not something we can, it probably takes days, weeks, months to
Right.
really learn this, but let's whet people's appetite, because I can, without reservation, recommend your content, your work, your upcoming classes. And so let's whet their appetite and give them some real cash value, but also help them to move forward. Because you're like, I looked at a lot of the people who've given you recommendations and testimonials. They're all like movie stars. And I know you don't brag, I know you don't, but this is for real. So let me just start here with an article that really hit me hard, was How to Love Yourself. And you already mentioned this, and step 1 is your inner baby monitor.
Step one is learning to get present in your body. When I started practicing inner bonding, I was in my head. I had learned to tune into other people's feelings, but I didn't know anything about mine. So step 1 is the practice of moving out of your head and into your body, getting present. And sometimes that takes quite a bit of time to remember to do that, and to want responsibility. You have to make a decision. Yeah, okay, I'm feeling anxious. I want responsibility for that. Then step 2 is moving into your heart, breathing into your heart, and consciously opening to learning, and inviting the love and the compassion of your higher spirit into your heart. So that's what creates what we call the loving adult, where we're open to learning and we feel compassion or kindness in our heart. And then step 3 is we're going into, yeah.
Let me just, so that, number 2, from my experience, and maybe it's just me, people tend to struggle with, they want to learn and they want to know, but learning about themselves.
Yeah.
How do you get people into that state of mind?
That's a very, very good question, because so often what I run into is resistance. It's like, nope, too scary. I don't want to know. I'm not worth it. I can't do it. It's too hard. There's nothing there. It's not my job. It's somebody else's job to make me feel like I'm okay. I mean, there's all kinds of false beliefs. So, we have to have love as our guiding light, unless we want to do what our soul came here to do, which is evolve in our ability to love ourselves and others and to manifest the gifts we've been given. Unless that's our guiding light, we're going to stay stuck in fear. We're going to stay stuck in control and avoidance and protection against pain. So, it's up to each of us to make that decision that love is more important than anything else. And I can't make a person do that.
Right. Yeah, but you certainly give them a track to run on. That is
Yes,
absolutely
I
true.
give them a pathway that they can learn. So step 1, you're getting in touch with your feelings and you want responsibility. Step 2, you're opening to learning and bringing in love and compassion into your heart. Step 3, let's say you go inside and you're feeling depressed. And so you're asking in this step, what am I telling you? Like, let's say you're talking to your inner child. What am I telling you? How am I treating you? What am I doing or not doing that's causing you to feel depressed? And then you go inside and you allow that feeling to speak. That feeling will speak once it trusts that you're actually going to listen. So the feeling might say, well, actually, you're keeping me in a cage. You're not letting me be myself. You're telling me I'm not good enough and I'm not allowed to speak my truth. You're telling me that I've got to perform for other people, that I can't be who I am. So there's all kinds of reasons that, or you're feeding me horrible food, because that can also cause depression, which,
Sure.
it imbalances the gut, and then the toxicity goes up into the brain, and then it causes anxiety and depression. So there's so many reasons, but it has to do with how we're treating ourselves physically and emotionally. And so we're going inside to find that out. And then we're going a little deeper. Okay, why am I squashing myself? Why am I putting myself in a cage? What are my beliefs? See, so that's where we go deeper. Well, I believe that if I let myself be who I am, I'm going to get rejected and I can't handle that, or people will run over me and I'll be taken advantage of. I mean, there's all sorts of false beliefs. But we start to uncover those when we do this process. They're not as hard to uncover as people think, even though they're subconscious or unconscious. As we tune into our feelings and we ask, why are we treating ourselves this way? We uncover the false beliefs. Then in step 4, we go to our higher.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean
That's
to
all
interrupt
right.
you, but this is too juicy to keep. All right. So what I took from exploration is that you really ask people to begin to ask the right questions.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
Right.
And that is critical in any kind of journey, because if you ask the right questions, you can get the right answers. And I apologize. So
No,
step
that's
number
fine.
4.
That's fine.
Yes.
Yes.
Step number 4 is truth and loving action. And this really gets into how do you access your higher self. So I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, that's fine. You're right. It's about, see, people often will say, well, what's happening that's making you depressed, or what's happening that's making you anxious, rather than what am I doing? What am I telling you? How am I treating you? So often we end up treating ourselves the ways that we were treated as we were growing up, or the ways that our parents or caregivers treated themselves, because they were the role models. And so most of us don't realize how badly we're treating ourselves. We're judging ourselves. We're ignoring our feelings. We're numbing out with various addictions, and we're making other people responsible. These are all forms of self-abandonment that create these very painful, wounded feelings. So then in step 4, we're saying, okay, I've uncovered some beliefs. What's the truth? And what would be loving to me? 2 questions: what's true and what's loving? And then we learn to access that information. For me, when I started doing it, it would take a long time for me to get the answers. Now I get them immediately. And then in step 5, I take the action. Whatever's loving to me, I do it. And then in step 6, I go in and say, how am I feeling now? And your feelings, again, will let you know if you're loving yourself, if you've taken loving action for yourself, you're going to feel relief. You're going to feel so much better inside. That sense of deep relief lets you know that you're on the right track.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So step 1, monitor, learning, exploration, truth. And then, step 5, this to me is critical. Take
Yes, it is.
action, take
Right.
loving action. What would love do now? And and without zero thought of the just take the action. I think that's what you say.
Yeah, take the action. There could be so many different actions. There's thousands and thousands of actions, and so we can't know what's the loving action in a given moment without actually asking that higher source of information, whatever you believe that is, to bring that information. And people often say, well, what's loving in this particular kind of situation? I said, I don't know. You got to ask. I ask all the time, because it's not like a cookie cutter answer. It's
Right.
going to be different every time. And so when you practice this process long enough, what happens? And this is very interesting, because our brains have neuroplasticity. what happens is that we create new neural pathways in the prefrontal cortex, the higher part of the brain, so that eventually these deep railroad tracks in the lower part of our brain are not automatically taking over. And that's why it takes practice, because anything you practice for a period of time develops the new neural pathways. And that's what we want. We want new neural pathways for the loving adult, because most of us never, we don't have a loving adult when we start this, nor did we see anybody being a loving adult with themselves or with others. So we need to practice the process in order to develop that loving adult. And these 6 steps, they're the workout for developing those new neural pathways for the loving adult.
Oh, that's beautiful. And then the final one is check in. If it was loving, the action, then it's going to release a certain amount of pain.
Right.
And then I would imagine, if I'm correct, you go back up to step 1 and work your way down and just continue on an upward spiral.
Yes, you do. You see, when you're what you want to do is be living in step 1. And that takes a lot. It took me a lot of practice to live in step 1, to live in my body, so that I knew the moment there was anything other than peace and fullness inside. I mean, what we want is we want to live in peace. We want to live in fullness. We don't want to live in anxiety and emptiness and that feeling of aloneness inside. And so, the goal is that we want to feel peaceful and full of love, because when we're loving ourselves, we get all filled up with love. That love wants to spill out. We want to share that love with others, and that's what creates loving relationships. When we're wanting to share love rather than get love, when we're operating out of that wounded part of ourselves and we're abandoning ourselves, we're desperate to get love, and we want to control getting love, by giving ourselves up or by getting angry or withdrawing, and then we don't want to be controlled, so we go into resistance, and of course all of that erodes relationships.
Sure.
And the thing is that, see, a lot of people think if I love myself, I'm going to end up alone. But what actually happens is that we attract people at our common level of self-abandonment or self-love. So as long as you're abandoning yourself, not loving yourself, you're going to attract people who are trying to get you to love them, just like you're trying to get them to love you, and you create a codependent relationship that doesn't work. But the more you love yourself and you have love to share, the more you're going to attract somebody who's also seeing and valuing and caring about themselves, because it's about frequency. The law of attraction says like attracts like frequency attracts like frequency. And so, no, we don't end up alone. We attract the kind of more loving people that we want into our life, the more we love ourselves.
It's so, and this brings us full circle to the beginning, because the inner bonding, healing your loneliness. And I know I said I wanted to discuss this, and this will be the final topic, is so many people right now are separated from family, separated from loved ones. There's a lot of people who are afraid, and that descent, and this society encourages that descent down the brainstem.
Right.
What would you recommend? And I hope you recommend the inner bonding, but besides that, what do you recommend for people right now dealing with what they're dealing with?
Well, it's a challenge. For me, I'm not very challenged because I'm an introvert and I love to be alone and I work at home. And so I don't miss a whole lot of things right now. But for people who regenerate with others, it's really important for them to be reaching out in whatever way they can, either meet in a park with social distancing, meet online, do what you can to connect with the important people in your life. And so, it's important for us to validate the kind of person we are. There's a bunch of people that are real happy with not having to socialize because they're not, they're more introverted people and they love to be alone and they're not having a problem at all. But then there's a whole lot of people that are having a big problem. They just feel too lonely and they need to connect with other people. And so part of loving yourself is to make sure that you find ways, safe ways of doing that, to honor what you need. See, this is part of the inner bonding process, is going in and honoring who you are, the kind of person you are, taking care of that, honoring what you need.
That this has been absolutely phenomenal. Are there any parting words, thoughts? Tell people how they can get in touch. We'll have stuff on the video, of course, how they can get in touch, because your course is so popular and it's so, I hate to use the word it's so value driven and it's not crazy. It's really phenomenal. Why don't you tell them how to get in touch with that?
Yeah, so if you go to innerbonding.com, my upcoming Love Yourself course, which teaches inner bonding, will start on September 9th. You can find a link for that. And it is truly a phenomenal course. It's truly a life-changing course. I have many courses that are on there, many ways of learning inner bonding. We have a community, Inner Bonding Village, that people can join and connect with each other. I do now virtual 5-day intensives where I do very deep work. I'm going to be having a weekend workshop coming up, which is also going to be virtual, where people can really learn the inner bonding process that way. There's just so many ways to learn it. And of course, all of my books on the inner bonding process. So there's no, and we have a free course on our website. We have a free 7-day course that will give people the outline of the inner bonding process. It's a really good course. It's a fairly in-depth course that people can take for free. So we try to support people in any way we can. I've heard from people all over the world who have no money at all and have learned inner bonding through what we offer on the website, because we offer a lot of free help on the site. And so you don't have to spend a lot of money to learn the inner bonding process. You just have to be really, really deeply motivated to learn to love yourself.
Oh, that's beautiful. And
Well,
there's
and
actually
I also do sessions. I work with individuals and couples, and there's a phone number on the site where people can reach my lovely assistant. So there's just a lot of ways to connect.
Oh, that's great. And there's actually an automated course too. If people, maybe somebody watches this, because this will be in the ethers for posterity. There's also an automated class as well. And you're so reasonable, and the value you give is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yes, we offer a course called SelfQuest, which for people who love to work online by themselves, it's a very, very in-depth course to teach inner bonding. So you can find SelfQuest on the site. And we offer some packages too, where you can get SelfQuest, the Love Yourself course, an intro video that's from one of my workshops, in a package that will just really blow you away as far as being able to learn inner bonding.
Oh, that's great. And there's no greater pursuit. I mean, you have to work on yourself and be open to that.
Right.
And it makes life so much easier when you go out in the world, and relationships and business and everything. And it absolutely, well, Dr. Paul, this has been phenomenal. It really has. I'm so glad we did this. We finally got to do this, because we tried a few times, and I really appreciate your contribution, not only to relationship development and humanity upgrade, but to people in general. It really is you're like a shining star. It's really beautiful. And I'm going to correct that. I'm going to correct that 1967 on the website. And
No.
no,
I want people to know that they don't have to get old and decrepit if they take care of themselves.
And that's obvious with you. Your energy just comes through. All right, this is Dr. Stephen Cangiano signing off with Dr. Margaret Paul, Relationship Development and Transformation, Humanity Upgrade, RDT Media and Events. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.